Welcome,
Uh,
everybody, to our new blog, Earth Medicine Soul Care. I am Oakwalker.
and I am Frank Stronghorse, and we're going to be exploring different aspects, I guess you could say, of spiritual awarenesses that can assist us in taking care of our soul, which I think a lot of us, and I'm sure Oakwalker would agree, is probably one of the primary reasons that we have come to this planet. And so it's our intention to try to set something up so that people can focus on that aspect of themselves. And so, I guess, Oakwalker, we're going to give a little background of our particular paths that we followed so that people understand where we're coming from.
Absolutely. We can begin with some background. So I'll start with that. I uh, I was just your normal run-of-the-mill kind of guy. I was an electronic technician who surfed all my life, and I was going to Tai Chi classes so that I could learn how to surf better. And lo and behold, during the process of this highly meditative movement, quasi martial art, I guess you could say, I discovered that there were boundaries of energy that existed far beyond my normal physical body. And at that point, I realized that there was, how do I word this without sounding real stupid? Something to all this woo woo stuff is the first thing that popped into my mind. But I realized that there
Right.
was more than just the physical world going on there. Uh, I had already had a interesting experience actually at an altar call way back in the 70s where I realized that there was something in the universe that was bigger than me. And that was an experience that stayed with me all my whole life long. And then when this started going on, it set me off into this long, long study of all kinds of different energy works and alternative spiritualities. It began with Taoism because I was right there in a Tai Chi class, and that meant a
Mhm.
lot to me. And then I moved into the study of a cross-cultural study of all the different kinds of spirituality, with the exception of a few of the major ones. I didn't get deeply into Judaism. I didn't get deeply into Muslim, but I was doing the Bhagavad Gita and studying all these things and noticing that there's an astonishing number of similarities between all of these systems. And then I finally ended up with my mentor Oscar Miro Quesada, who was a half indigenous Peruvian. His mother was an indigenous Quechua, and I think she was Quechua. And he was a master's in psychology by training. So he integrated a whole lot of this indigenous culture into your basic cross-cultural psychological uh, studies, and based in science with the Jungian, the Freudian, and Eric Fromm, the guy who wrote Man the Manipulator. Uh,
Right.
People like those. And he pulled all this together. And interestingly enough, he was also at the University of South Carolina. He was Dr. Raymond Moody's office mate for years and years. And Dr. Raymond Moody is the man who became famous for all of the NDA, the near death experiences, NDEs, um, that he studied for years and years and years. So they were going across the veil, I guess you would say, with both science and with spirituality. So I studied to be a curandero with Oscar since about 2002, got seriously into it in 2004. It's been nonstop ever since. We've always had a cross cultural affinity with the North American indigenous cultures too. So it's quite a broad base of experience in a lot of different indigenous and, you could say, pre-Christian um, sorts of modalities. And that's how I got here today, roughly.
So that's so as I understand though, the sort of the root is is Peruvian shamanism. Is that true?
Yeah, pretty much. So Oscar's Pachacuti Mesa tradition is a really nice cross-cultural tradition between two different Peruvian modalities. One is the high Andean Pacocuna tradition, and the other one is the North Coastal uh, curandero tradition. And so by combining those two things together, he's come up with a modality where we can basically go out into the symbolism of just about any tradition and make it work within the system on the altar or the mesa that we have set up. So it's very broad based and beautiful. It's been working very well
Mm.
for me.
Okay, well that's my background's a little bit different in that I basically got tricked into it because I was looking for anything. I mean, I was just living in Dallas. I was a commercial real estate broker. I was working on big real estate deals and running the clubs at night, just having a great time. And this woman who was an apprentice to Sun Bear came in my office one day and she said, "There's a guy coming to town. You need to go see him." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Well, because it'll change your life." And I thought, "Yeah, well, I don't get that I need to change a whole lot. And so I was really kind of just rude to her. She threw the thing flyers down on my desk. She said, "Well, he's a Nagual, and you need to go see him." Well, I'd read most of the Castaneda books in the '60s,
Uh-huh.
and
Me too.
I did had no idea what he was talking about, but I felt like, wow, these are really there's something about these that are really important. I mean, they really resonated with me, and I had no idea. I had no idea why. Um, so although I had not, I mean, I had read some books on spirituality. I had the Rancha book. I remember reading Siddhartha. And I guess I was in the City Lights bookstore in San Francisco one time, and I just pulled a book off the shelf, just totally randomly. Like, well, I guess if I'm in a bookstore, I should look at a book. And it was on the Kogi Indians of Colombia. And I thought, well, that's strange. I wonder why I picked that out. And so I bought it, took it home, and the Kogis are well known for they live high up in the I guess Sierra Madres or the Andes down there, and they're very very well connected into Grandmother Earth. And so I read the book. I thought, well, this is really fascinating. And
Uh-huh.
then when I was living in Santa Fe, I had a guy by the name of David who was a priest for the Native American church. And he kept pursuing me. He kept saying, "You need to study this. You need to get involved in this." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't think so, man." And so long story short, I go to this workshop because it was just been on my head for all week. And then finally, I just kind of, all right, I'm going to go. I'll just go. So I show up, and it was down at Waxahachie, down south of Dallas. And I show up, and there's a guy building a wooden structure in the back of this house, a hut looking thing. And I was told to go out and help him. And his name was Bati. So I said, what are we building? He says, "We're building a sweat lodge." Well, I've never even heard of a sweat lodge. And I couldn't understand what it was going to be about because it's just a wood frame. How's anybody going to sweat in this?
Right.
I, so so the first night of the workshop, this guy's lecturing, and I remember when he first showed up, he got out. I was out working with Bhatti, and I saw him get out of the car, and he was all dressed in black, and he had a Billy Jack hat on, flat brim with eagle feathers and stuff. And I thought, well,
Uh,
that's interesting. And he walked into the house, and then when he came down to teach, he was dressed very conservatively. I guess he thought if he's going to be teaching in Texas or something that was important. I never asked him why, but
well, I get
so
that.
so anyway, after the first night, and at the end of the lecture, and I was fascinated with the lecture. He goes, "All right, we're all gonna disrobe. We're gonna go get out in this hut and sweat and pray." And I was like, "What did he say?" we're gonna do what? And people are like, yeah, and they just started rubbing their clothes off. I thought, well, this is totally strange. And so I thought I'd go along with the gag, So I followed along, and we get into this thing, and they shut the door. And man, it is. I can't even see my hand in front of my face. It's so black. And next thing I know, I get hit with a wave of heat, and I remember thinking, oh my God, you have really stepped over the line this time. You know, you, you've done a lot of stuff, dude, but this one, this is takes a cake. And there was this elderly lady, I say elderly, older lady sitting to my right. She starts doing like bear impressions. She's growling, and the woman in front of me just completely passes out, falls in my arms. And I'm like, oh my God. And I didn't, I mean, I just, then when it was over, everybody just jumped up and crawled out like nothing had happened, and I mean, I've probably done over 100 sweat lodges since then, but that was definitely one of the most powerful. And I crawled out, and fell on a towel, and rolled over and looked up in the stars and went, God, there's a lot of stars out tonight. And I I really felt different. I really
Yeah,
did. I felt incredibly different. And so I came back for a second day, and I was really fascinated by the lectures. But on Sunday night, I was driving back to Dallas, and I got what's known as the knock of the spirit. And this voice said to me,
yeah,
"You have found that which you've been searching for."
yeah,
And I hadn't really been searching for anything, but I just knew that was the truth. And it was the first time I'd really felt the truth. And I literally broke down crying. And I cried all the way back to Dallas. And I walked into this apartment that I was, and my girlfriend at the time, who was convinced that I was joining a cult.
right.
And I walked in, and I got tears streaming down my face. And she's like, "Oh my God, what's wrong?" And I looked at her and I says, "Absolutely nothing. Everything is perfect." She
Uh-huh.
kind of backed off, and I meant it.
Yeah.
And I didn't know it then, but what I was experiencing was the I am,
Yes.
you know, and, and it was just this synchronicity. There was this perfection. And I mean, to this day, I couldn't get over it. I mean, I was just absolutely blown away. So in a period of literally 72 hours, I'd gone from this commercial real estate broker to the I am, you know,
Right.
and that's a long way to go in a short period of time.
Yeah.
So then I thought, well, then I ended up going on a journey through the Southwest with this guy, and his name is Harley Swift Deer,
Uh-huh.
and he was an apprentice to a guy by the name of Tom Wilson, who's a Navajo, and in the Castaneda books, Tom Wilson's name was Don Gennaro,
Uh-huh.
and
I
so
remember that.
you know he was part of this whole lineage of teachers, and I was fascinated to find out, well, what is this Castaneda stuff about? I mean, did he make this stuff up, or
Yeah.
was he on drugs, or what's he doing? And so I ended up on a mesa the first night, and I won't go into long detail right now about what that was about, but it was just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I experienced stuff out there that I can't even hardly adequately describe. And so, long story short, I came out of it and I thought, you know what? I'm going to check this out.
Yeah.
Although I was a little bit hesitant because I thought, well, I don't want to, I'm not in it. I'm not a joiner. I don't want to get roped into some kind of cult or anything here. But so I ended up going to, doing more workshops with him. And he was living in LA at the time. And after about a year, I ended up packing up and moving to LA and becoming, one of the main apprentices. And
Yeah.
so I've been doing that for probably, I guess that was at 86, whatever that is, 25, 30 years. Um,
40.
so it's been a huge benefit to my life, and has really contributed. So I'm really looking forward to sharing a lot of these stories with
Uh-huh.
people in this blog, because I think we can really, we can offer some really good things to people. But and I was doing some writing on, my latest book that no one will ever read. And I was writing and I was thinking, and I thought about today, and I thought, well, the elephant in the room here is, and which I think we're both going to have to address, is that we're talking about things that very few people know little about.
Yeah, that's
And most of them, unless they actually experience it, would have a great deal of doubt about them.
yeah.
And so I think our challenge is going to be to convey this in a way that people are, that we spark their curiosity, that they think, well, maybe might be something I would in this for me. And so I hope that over the period of time that we end up doing this, that's kind of what we look forward to accomplish.
Well, yes, I think so too. But it's important. I need to throw in here that we're not going to have any success in trying to convert people to a specific worldview or spirit view that we have. And
Right,
I think one of our main tasks here, because we're in a time that's so fraught with fear and uncertainty, that we need to use our experiences to get people to use whatever floats their boat to keep themselves. That's why we call it soul care, to keep themselves in a grounded state so that their self care helps them get through some times that are promising to be fairly tough. And we don't
right,
need to really get political because that's going to happen all on its own. But we
right.
do need a few people. There's some other people doing this. I really enjoy a guy on Substack called the Chocolate Taoist, and he's been bringing me back to my Taoist roots a little bit. And I'm starting to remind myself again how everything, it all comes together in the universe that is one song,
Right,
because that's what universe means, one song, right? So it's
right,
all, even though there's many, many different choruses of it, we're all
right.
going to have to use our own experiences to legitimize other people's own experiences so that they can take good care of themselves as moving forward. That's where I'm hoping
I
that we
agree.
can add some healing energy.
I agree with 100%. It's so easily get consumed with politics right now because it's all over the media and, it's,
You,
it's a big selling point. And, in the United States, I guess we're really inundated with it 24/7, basically. And so,
uh,
I think, if we can give even a sense of entertaining stories to people that allow them to even exit out of that for a period of time, so that
yeah,
they see that there is an alternative to lifestyle to what's being peddled out there as uh, the one and only way. And in
yeah,
alignment with your saying, one of the things that really captured me when I decided to follow this particular path is they refer to themselves as the Sweet Medicine Sundance Teachings of Turtle Island of the Twisted Hairs.
uh-huh,
And the Twisted Hairs uh, they were known for traveling and telling stories. And each time that they would go into a village and they would share stories, when they learned something through someone else's story, they'd put another twist in their braids.
yeah,
And so that was the foundation of the Twisted here. So there was their intention to bring together different forms of belief systems, different forms of seeing the world, different types of knowledge to see what really works,
uh-huh. They're
and
sort
when
of
it
like
worked,
librarians.
or with it, yeah, what they would say, grow, if it grew corn, then they would put another braid in the hair to signify to them that they had gained another piece of knowledge. Um, so it helps eliminate dogma. It helps
Yeah,
kind of get rid of hey, guess who I am and guess what I got, and you really want to have this, you
yeah,
know,
exactly.
which which I think is really the biggest problem in the world these days. Is people going around trying to profit or uh, impress people with their own
Uh-huh,
personal stuff, and it takes us away from the thing that's all around us all the time anyway. That if we connect into that, we become, as you stated before, something is there that's larger than us, that
Yeah.
when we become a part of it, our priorities tend to shift, tend to change.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's no need to become performative. That's a word that's been popping up in my head a lot lately, is because a lot of people, and God bless them. They're doing the best they know how, and so am I, and so are you. And but so much of it's like, hey, you have to think of me as a good person because look at what I'm doing, which is
Right,
even contrary to what their own what their own rules say. These are the same people that are
right,
supposed to be, praying in silence in a closet, and they're out there going, hey, hey,
right,
I'm one of the good
right,
guys, and
right,
it's
right,
natural to want to be one of the good guys, but it's also important that we have a basic level of sincerity and that we're actually doing the things that are bringing the bringing good things into the world, if you will. And in order to do that, I have to stay healthy. And really, when it started out for me, it was all about healing myself anyway, because
right,
I was sick.
right. Yeah, I ended up receiving a healing and all that. I wasn't looking for one,
Yeah,
which is probably a big reason why it worked.
right.
Kind of going in there with my trust and innocence and without expectations, and then lo and behold, boom, I'm into something that I had no idea that I was in it. And I think the other thing we need to really be clear with everybody, because people tend to try to put political labels on things, and so we're not trying to be indigenous people. We're
Yeah,
not trying to be, we're not trying to be Indians. We're not trying to, uh, we're not trying to imitate anybody. Uh, and just the opposite of that. I think
yeah,
that, for me, it's like it showed me how to be in my authentic self. You know,
exactly.
and I think with that, which was new to me. I didn't even know there was an authentic self. I thought I was in my authentic self. What's going
Right.
on? And
Yep.
you
I'm
know,
playing by all the
and
rules. I'm doing everything you tell me, and that's my
yeah,
authentic self. But wait
of
a
course I'm
moment.
authentic. What are you talking about, man? Who are you to tell me I'm not authentic?
Right?
And lo and behold, I discovered that wow, there's more here than I knew was here,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
so I think we can convey that then this will become educational.
Yeah. Yep, I think you're right. And I think we both have lots and lots of stories. So
We're kind of running up on the end.
yeah, we are running up on the end. So I don't know how to close yet. This is our first one. So, and I'm sure that our intros and our closings are going to start becoming more or less pat as we move forward through this. So let me
Right.
just say that it's been really good having you here and being with you for this short period of time. And my name is Oakwalker, and I'm here to help.
Oh, well, and I'm Stronghorse, and which, by the way, means carry the message of the philosophies and beliefs of the people and the message of the heart. So, I've tried to live that. That's what I'll try to bring to the program, and we'll see how it goes, man. You and I'll have fun anyway.
Right?
We enjoy talking. So, if we can, this evolves into a series of medicine talks. Just being able to see how that level of communication presents itself, I think, will be educational in and of itself. So,
Yeah, I agree. Well, so, dear listeners, whoever you may be and wherever you may be, thank you for having us. Thank you for listening in on us. And we will be back soon and chat with you later.